Let's be real for a second. Are you tired of hearing your neighbor's TV, the dog barking, or just every single conversation from the next room? If you've ever wished for a quieter home, this is absolutely the explainer for you. We're going to break down the science and the step-by-step process of soundproofing a wall that's already built. We're going to turn that frustration into some peaceful silence. So let's start with the big question. Why are your walls so noisy in the first place? You know, this quote from our source material just nails it. It perfectly captures the problem. Think about it. When sound hits one side of your wall, that thin sheet of drywall vibrates. And that vibration, well, it creates sounds on your side. Your wall is literally built like a drum, almost perfectly designed to transmit sound, not block it. So to fix this drum, we first have to understand what we're actually up against. And it's not just one kind of noise either. There are two main culprits we need to fight. First, there's airborne noise. That's the stuff you probably think of first, right? Voices, music, anything that travels through the air. But then there's impact noise. A door slamming, someone walking heavily upstairs. That stuff travels through the solid structure, the very bones of your house. A good soundproofing plan has to tackle both. Okay, now before we even think about buying any materials, we need to get a handle on the 4 scientific principles of stopping sound. If you get these 4 concepts, you'll understand why certain products work and why others, like, say, egg crates, are totally useless. The first principle is mass. It's really just a brute force. It's simple. The heavier and denser a wall is, the more energy it takes for sound waves to make it vibrate. It's the most basic rule of soundproofing. Heavy things block sound way better than light things. Next up, we have damping, which is actually a fascinating idea. This isn't about blocking sound. It's about killing the vibration itself. There are materials out there that can actually convert the energy from a sound wave into a tiny, tiny amount of heat. It's kind of like putting your hand on a ringing bell to stop the sound instantly. Then there's decoupling. This one is all about creating a break in the path. See, if the two sides of your wall don't physically touch each other, it's much harder for vibrations to travel from one side to the other. You're basically creating a gap that the sound just can't jump across. And finally, we have absorption. Imagine your wall is just a hollow box. Any sound that gets inside is just going to echo and get louder. By filling that cavity with a soft, dense insulation, you soak up those sound waves and stop them from bouncing around. It's like putting a pillow inside that drum we were talking about. Okay, so now that we know the science, let's look at the actual materials that put those 4 principles into action. This is going to be your toolkit for a quiet home. Let's start with a product called green glue. This stuff is absolutely fantastic for damping. It's a compound that, and this is key, never fully hardens. You squish it between 2 layers of drywall, and it just sits there, turning sound energy into heat. It's especially good against those really hard-to-stop low-frequency bass sounds. Now for pure mass, it is really hard to beat mass-loaded vinyl, or MLV. This is a thin, flexible sheet that is incredibly dense and heavy for its size. It's kind of like adding a layer of lead to your wall, but it's completely safe and way easier to work with. It's an absolute powerhouse for stopping airborne noise. For absorption inside the wall cavity, what you want is mineral wool. It is much denser than that pink fiberglass insulation you always see. And that density makes it incredible at soaking up any sound that gets trapped inside the wall. Plus, big bonus, it's really fire resistant. Now for the final, and I mean absolutely crucial step, sealing everything up. You have to remember that sound is like water. It will leak through any tiny opening it can find. You could build the most massive wall in the world, but if there's a little crack, sound will find it. Acoustical sealant stays flexible for decades, sealing the perimeter of the wall, while these putty pads wrap around your electrical outlets to plug up those weak spots. All right, theory's over. Time to get practical. Here is the most common and effective DIY method for an existing wall, which our source cleverly calls the drywall sandwich. And you know what? It's surprisingly straightforward. You're basically just adding a new layer of heavy drywall right over your existing wall, but with a layer of green glue in between. You find your studs so you have a solid connection, you apply the glue, and you screw on the new sheet. And that little 1/4-inch gap you leave around the edges, you fill that with the acoustical sealant. That right there, that's a brilliant small-scale example of decoupling. And to make it even easier, here's a shopping list for a pretty standard 10 by 12 foot wall. Notice how every single item connects directly back to our core principles. The drywall adds mass, the green glue gives us damping, and the sealant handles that crucial sealing and decoupling step. So what's the damage? Well, for a standard wall, you're probably looking at a cost somewhere between 400 and 800 bucks for all the materials. And yeah, it's not cheap, but you should really think of it as a permanent investment in your home's comfort and even its value. Okay, you've got the plan, you've got the budget. Let's wrap this up by tackling some common myths and a few pro tips to make sure your project is a huge success. All right, we have to address the elephant in the room. This is probably the number one most common soundproofing question out there. Do those foam egg crates you see in movies and studios, do they actually work? The answer is a huge definitive no. And the best part is you know exactly why now, right? Remember our first principle? Mass. Egg crates are just lightweight paper or foam. They have virtually no mass to block sound. Sure, they might reduce a little bit of echo inside a room, but will they do anything to stop sound from getting through the wall? Absolutely not. So, should you actually do this yourself? Well, it is definitely achievable, and you can save a lot of money, but it requires real attention to detail. If you leave one small gap, your whole effort could be for nothing. So you have to be honest with yourself. Can you handle wrestling with heavy drywall sheets? Are you comfortable working around electrical outlets? If you have any doubts at all, especially for a critical room like a home theater or a bedroom, hiring a pro is a really smart investment to guarantee you get the results you're paying for. And finally, please don't forget these crucial real-world details. If you live somewhere humid, using standard drywall could trap moisture and lead to mold inside your brand new wall, so you'll want to use moisture-resistant types instead. And always, always check your local building codes for fire safety rules, especially if it's a shared wall in a condo or an apartment. The great news is you're already on the right track since two of our key materials, that mineral wool and the Type X drywall, are excellent fire retardants. So there you have it, the science, the materials, and the step-by-step plan. You now have the complete blueprint to take back control of your environment. And that really just leaves one final question for you to consider. What is a quiet, peaceful home really worth to you?